All right, guys, sorry. I am going to pick up where we left off. I ran out of storage on my SD card. All is well. So we were saying that the queen died first, and as Hamlet starts calling for who's the villain, where's the treachery, Laertes falls, and Osric leaves, and he'll have a little role in a minute. When Laertes falls, presumably it's because he got stabbed pretty bad by Hamlet, but some directors have done it where he actually falls from something like a balcony. Maybe I'll get a chance to show you that scene in the Kenneth Branagh film. I really like that take on it. But then Laertes says, "It is here, the treachery is here, Hamlet. Hamlet, thou art slain. No medicine in the world can do thee good. In thee there is not half an hour of life. The treacherous instrument is in thy hand, unbaited and envenomed. The foul practice hath turned itself on me. Lo, here I lie, never to rise again. Thy mother's poisoned, I can no more. The king's to blame." So he lets Hamlet know, dude, you're gonna die. You've been stabbed with a poisoned sword, unbaited and unvenomed, so it's unblunted and poisoned. And he puts the blame on the king. So Hamlet looks at the sword he's holding and says, the point is envenomed, poisoned too, then venom to thy work, and he stabs the king. At this point, it's a madhouse. Everyone's calling treason. All the onlookers, they don't know the story. They don't know who is at fault. Hamlet appears to be the most malicious of them because he has just stabbed Laertes really badly, and now he stabs the king. But as the king says, "Oh, yet defend me, friends, I am but hurt." It's like, it's just a flesh wound. Well, now Hamlet says, "Here, thou incestuous, murderous, damned Dane, drink off this potion. Is thy union here? Follow my mother." So he then pours the rest of that a chunk of that poisoned wine into the king's mouth. So the king has been stabbed and poisoned, really by each of the effects that he planned for Hamlet. It's poetic justice. And so the king dies. So queen first, then king. Laertes says he is justly served. Exchange forgiveness with me, noble Hamlet. Mine and my father's death come not upon thee, nor thine on thee. So let's forgive each other. We don't want to go to our deaths with all this on our consciences. So let's repent and make it right. And Hamlet says, "Heaven make thee free of it. I follow thee." Laertes dies. Hamlet has a bit more to say, though, yet. "I am dead, Horatio, wretched queen, adieu. You that look pale and tremble at this chance, that are but mutes or audience to this act. Had I but time, as this fell sergeant, death is strict in his arrest. Oh, I could tell you, but let it be." So he would love the opportunity to tell everybody that's just wide-eyed, looking on, calling treason, not understanding what's happening before their eyes in this mass bloodshed. Hamlet says, "I'd love to tell you, but death is coming too quickly." Horatio, "I am dead, thou livest. Report me and my cause aright to the unsatisfied." But Horatio says, "Never believe it. I'm more an antique Roman than a Dane. Here's yet some liquor left." So he picks up the poisoned cup, wanting to drain the last of the poisoned wine, essentially killing himself because this is too grotesque. It's too much to deal with. But Hamlet recognizes he's the only one that could tell the whole story. This shows us the value of Hamlet choosing Horatio as a confidant all along. He's the only one living that could tell about the ghost and about Hamlet's quest for revenge and about what happened at sea, what happened to Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, what the king had planned for him. All of it, only Horatio knows. So Hamlet says, "As thou art a man, give me the cup." In other words, let go. Don't do this. If you are a man, by heaven, I'll have it. Oh God, Horatio, what a wounded name. Things standing thus unknown shall live behind me. If thou didst ever hold me in thy heart, absent thee from felicity a while, and in this harsh world draw my breath in pain to tell my story. So Horatio, you must live on to tell my story. Give me a clear name, otherwise I die everyone thinking I'm the villain. now. There's a march afar off and a shot within. This may be in context with the earlier page, trumpet sound and a cannon shot off within. Whether one was in celebration of Hamlet or no, at least by this point, there is an attack on the castle. Who do you suppose that is? It's Fortinbras. Osric says, when asked by Hamlet, what warlike noise is this? Osric says it's young Fortinbras with conquest come from Poland to the ambassadors of England gives this warlike volley. Okay, so they did go to Poland after all, Fortinbras's army, just as the captain said. They fought against that little patch of land, but it's on the way back that they planned this attack and are stopping in at the castle with malintentions, I am sure. And also, they apparently have seen ambassadors or messengers from England. So you have people from England, the Norwegian army on their way back from Poland, all kind of congregating at the castle at this very moment. Hamlet's dying request. I die, Horatio, the potent poison quite o'ercrows my spirit. I cannot live to hear the news from England, but I do prophesy the election lights on Fortinbras. He has my dying voice. So tell him with the occurrence more and less which have solicited. So Fortinbras has Hamlet's blessing. He's the only one that should rightfully and could rightfully maybe take over the throne of Denmark. I don't know how all the politics are gonna pan out. You know, if Fortinbras takes a chunk of the Danish land, we know that it didn't turn out where in real life Denmark now belongs to Norway, so it's not quite like that. But he does know Fortinbras is his only chance of his name being absolved, and if Horatio could just tell him the story. And he says, I cannot live to hear the news from England. What news would he be expecting? Of course, the news that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern were effectively put to death as the letters from the King of England demanded. But we know Hamlet wrote those letters. You'll see it in a minute. Hamlet's last line cannot be overlooked. He says, the rest is silence. And then he dies. Add this to the very back page of your packet where you've been listing ideas Hamlet has about death and the afterlife, what eternity could mean for him. Because here, after all the debates, all the questions, all the thoughts of, you know, are we forgotten quickly? Do we just wander around as ghosts in a sort of purgatory? Are we eaten by worms and end up finding our way through the guts of a beggar? Are we just skulls knocked around in the ground by drunken grave diggers? Do we end up ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and we just find ourselves as clay stopping a hole in the wall to keep the winter's wind out, or loam or cork stopping up a beer barrel? Remember, Hamlet also contemplated to die is to sleep perchance to dream. There's the rub. So he's thought about what if death is a sleep, and in that sleep is a nightmare that you can't wake up from. And more than that even, he just, throughout the whole entire text, will I be punished in eternal damnation if I take my life? And all these thoughts. For him, what he finds in that last second is the rest is just silence. Now, we know that's not at all biblical, but it's a nice end. It brings some satisfactory conclusion for Hamlet. Horatio says, now cracks a noble heart. Good night, sweet prince, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. Fortinbras marches in, wondering what is this sight. He says that it's more becoming a field of battle than the inside of a castle. the first ambassador, he's from England. He says, "This sight is dismal, and our affairs from England are come too late. The ears are senseless." In other words, the hearers that we intended this message for are deaf because they're dead. That should give us hearing to tell him his commandment is fulfilled, that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. Where should we have our thanks? So England has come especially to be thanked by King Claudius, but Horatio says not from his mouth, talking about Claudius, even had the ability of life to thank you. He never gave commandment for their death. Of course, because it was Hamlet. So he says, "You from the Polack wars and you from England are here arrived. Give orders that these bodies high on a stage be placed to view. And let me speak to the yet unknowing world how these things came about." So put them on a stage where I can tell you the whole story of everything that's happened. And then listen how this line from Horatio serves as such a great thematic summary of what has happened. "So shall you hear of carnal, bloody, and unnatural acts, of accidental judgments, casual slaughters, of deaths put on by cunning and forced cause, and in this upshot, purposes mistook fallen on the inventors' heads. All this can I truly deliver." And it just puts a lump in my throat because I love this story so much. I always wish Hamlet would live, and he never does. But it's such a beautiful picture of all that's happened, all the mischief, all the misunderstandings, all the revenge. And while it's a dark story, while it's a tragedy, it all, in a way, works out in the end. Everyone has achieved the justice that they sought. Laertes has killed Hamlet. Hamlet has killed Claudius. Fortinbras has taken over the throne that was lost by his father. So it works, even though it's heartbreaking. Fortinbras says, "I have some rights of memory in this kingdom, which now to claim my vantage doth invite me. So I will rightly take this throne." And Horatio says, "Of that I shall have also cause to speak, and from his mouth whose voice will draw on more." And Fortinbras has 4 captains bear Hamlet like a soldier to the stage, and said he was likely, had he been put on, to have proved most royal. And for his passage, the soldiers' music and the rights of war speak loudly for him. Take up the bodies. And so it's an honorable sort of death for Hamlet, because he's treated like, ironically, the brave soldier that he was. After all the time of being considered weak, he remains a bit of a hero here. Glancing through the questions to make sure I've addressed every one of them. I think, though I didn't number them off, I think you can answer every one of them from what I've said in these videos. Sorry.